American citizens should be happy to pay their taxes.
Americans should be happy to be citizens of this country, perhaps less excited about paying taxes.
The American Religious Town Hall meeting is now in session.
Welcome, friends, to the American Religious Town Hall meeting, where the discussion of religious, political, and social issues is meant to promote the cause of religious freedom and to help us better understand each other. And now, here's your host and moderator, Pastor Jerry Lutz.
Thank you, Mark, and I too will welcome you to another program. Here at the American Religious Town Hall meeting, we look forward to this time together. We hope you do too. But before we get started with today's discussion, let's hear from our panelists as they introduce themselves to you. We'll begin with the man to my right.
My name is Canon John Peterson. I'm an Episcopal priest in the Diocese of Washington.
I'm Rabbi Jordan Offsire, living in active retirement in Palm Springs, teaching and leading services in the community.
Hello, I'm Mel Robeck. I'm professor of church history and ecumenics at Fuller Theological Seminary in Pasadena, California, and I'm an ordained minister with the Assemblies of God.
My name is Bert Beach, and I am an ordained minister of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I live a few miles from our world headquarters and continue to be contacted there even though I'm retired.
Hi, I'm Carl Troval. I'm Dean of the College of Liberal Arts at Concordia University in Austin, Texas. It's affiliated with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod.
Hello, my name is Alan Lane. I'm pastor of Fort Graham Baptist Church in the lovely Lake Whitney area of Central Texas.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. As you can see, we've got an excellent panel assembled here, and they're up for this particular discussion. American patriotism has traditionally been very strong and has seemed to be strong by other countries as well. Americans value their country and passport. This country has attracted scores of millions of emigrants, turning them into immigrants who are generally proud of receiving American citizenship when they qualify after several years of legal residence. A surprising, even disturbing recent phenomenon has been a move in the opposite direction. Americans emigrating, that is moving abroad, and leaving the U.S. for understandable reasons such as marriage, inheritance, and career requirements. It is at times necessary or very convenient for Americans to move abroad and even take other citizenship. It seems, however, that in recent years there has been a larger number of Americans moving permanently abroad and giving up their U.S. citizenship. It appears that in 2013, over 3,000 Americans chose to renounce U.S. citizenship, probably largely for financial or related taxation reasons. This is triple the average figure for the previous 5 years. It would seem, at least, that the almighty dollar is challenging patriotism, not least among the rich. It is claimed that much of the problem comes from U.S. tax regulations. The U.S. stands out as one of few countries that taxes its national on all income, regardless whether it is earned abroad. Now, there are 3 questions I'd like for our panelists to consider today. The first is, are U.S. tax regulations a burden for Americans living abroad? Are foreign banks increasingly unhappy to have bank accounts held by U.S. citizens due to having to report such accounts to the U.S. government? And finally, is the very old issue of secret bank accounts abroad being solved one way or another? Well, that opens us up to our discussion. Let's return now to those who made the opening statements. And for that, let's go back to Dr. Robeck. And you made one of our opening statements, if you'd care to expand those thoughts for us a little bit.
Yeah, I tend not to link this to the topic of patriotism. I'd like to think about citizenship and the payment of taxes. certainly as citizens, we receive quite a few benefits. You know, we have freedom to move in this country. We can get a passport. We can go to just about any place in the world. In some cases, you have to buy a visa. But in most cases, you have the recognition that this country stands behind me as I travel abroad. There's a sense in which I represent this country in every place that I visit. It's also the case that our taxes tend to pay for the things that we often take for granted. The infrastructure of the United States, we hear a lot of discussion about it right now because the infrastructure right now is not doing very well. And we have put a lot of money into it recently, but we need a ton more. That has to come back and be paid for by somebody, and that's us, the citizens. We get protection through fire and police departments. We get protection with our military for whatever that's worth, in a sense, you know, for defense purposes in any case. Those are the kinds of things that I think are really important for us as American citizens to recognize and appreciate. When I think about American taxes, and I went looking just to do a little bit of research on this, most Americans pay under 30% of their income in taxes. When I go and I spend about 4 to 5 months a year overseas, and taxes range from 48 to 56%, depending upon the country in which you are present. But I have to say, when I look at the infrastructure of some of these countries, I think it's an amazing thing. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Europe, and the rail system, for instance, is a huge thing. For them. It's on time, it's everywhere, it's very difficult not to be able to use mass transit in some way. Here in the United States, we don't do that. We need to be thinking seriously about that. And in California, we talk about this rail line that's supposed to go up through the center of California, through all this farmland, you know. It's not serving anybody, but it's all this political meandering that has caused it to go in the direction that it has, or from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. You know, I mean, what's the purpose of that? You know, when you have a national system that doesn't seem to work, we need to be concerned about that. I also have friends that live abroad, and I'm very concerned for them because they are being hit with pretty heavy taxes. They are really currently discussing the whole question of whether to give up their citizenship or not. It's not so much that they want to give their citizenship up or that they don't want to pay taxes, but it's the double taxation that's the hard thing for them. And he's a Swiss citizen, would like to move to the United States, but he has to give up 50% of what he owns in order to do so because of an agreement between the IRS or the American government and the Swiss government on how that works. So that's a very difficult kind of a thing to put on. But my bigger concern is, what are we doing to help keep American corporations and businesses from doing this? They are the ones that are, in a sense, renouncing American citizenship, setting up somewhere else in the world in order to beat the American taxes, even though the vast majority of their income comes from the American people. So I really think we need to think much more seriously about this issue.
All right, thank you for advancing our discussion, but let's come back over to Dr. Beach, and you also made an opening remark.
Well, I think Dr. Robeck has covered the waterfront, or maybe I should say the financial tax front, pretty well. There are many issues. I'm personally proud to be a Seventh-day Adventist, proud to be an American citizen, proud to be able to serve in this country and live in this country. I lived abroad for over 40 years, 45 years, and lived in some great countries, France, Belgium, Switzerland, Italy, even a short stay in the Ivory Coast. I enjoyed it very much. But I'm happy to be an American citizen, even though I was born abroad. But both my parents were American, so therefore I was an American citizen. There is a problem that has come up in recent years in America more and more, and that is the question of the double taxation. Of course, Americans have found ways in the past by having secret accounts over in Switzerland or some other places that the American government didn't know anything about. And that is, of course, a questionable thing. On the other hand, if it's something that is abroad, has always been abroad, that you inherited, it isn't something you shipped abroad, it becomes a little bit more complicated. And so my wife, who is from abroad, has gone through that experience and has been a little bit trying, because now certain banks abroad won't even accept an American citizen an account there. They won't have it. Because if they have it, they have to report everything to the American authorities, and they don't feel, why should we, a bank in France or Belgium or wherever, be subject to the U.S. And so forth? And one can understand that. Now, one shouldn't, when we talk about double taxation, I think we shouldn't exaggerate in the sense that the American government does recognize if you're paying taxes abroad, you have to pay also U.S. taxes. But if the U.S. taxes are more than what you pay abroad, then you have to pay the U.S. But they take into consideration the taxation abroad. But all this is very complicated and is very expensive. You pay a lot of money for the tax authorities, not the tax, but tax specialists, the accountants to take account of that. And so you spend thousands of dollars just for accounting.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That certainly opens up the subject and goes down some trails that we might not have thought of. But let's go to Rabbi Ofsayer. If you could please give us your take on this subject.
I very much appreciate your putting me once again in the...
Almost. We were close, but I stopped short.
I'm honored.
Thank you.
I'm honored. What I'd like to do is to put into perspective some of the information that you've heard. On the one hand, the enormous numbers of people seeking to come into this country who are immigrants, and of course we're a nation of immigrants, and the number 3,000 Americans that have chosen not to continue their citizenship, being citizens of the United States. Please appreciate the imbalance of these numbers. 3,000 choosing to leave, and millions upon millions doing everything they can to come in to the United States and to be citizens of this country. We should be proud of that, even as we are concerned with respect to their coming here legally or not. But as context for the Americans who choose to continue to be Americans and those from other parts of the world who choose to join us, the perspective is clear.
All right. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Let's come down the table to Dr. Lane. Your position, please.
I want to respond to Dr. Robeck. Yes, I would be happier to pay my taxes if I could see them spent in a responsible way. That's where my complaint comes from, not the amount of taxes that are paid. I think the argument's made that that the burden we bear as taxpayers and the benefits we receive from it certainly justify the payment of the taxes. It's the issue of how they're spent. I want to see a kind of a financial marketplace, if you will, in place. And you alluded to that a moment ago when you spoke about corporate entities. They're going to look for the way to do their work and produce their product most efficiently. And if the American tax code becomes a burden to them, then they're going to look for other ways to do it. That challenges our tax code to be itself reviewed and updated, so that it's not the burden causing this flight of corporate entities or corporate individuals, even as the case may be, to look for somewhere else to do their business. So that's a great challenge for us. But overall, I do connect it to an issue of patriotism. I mean, honestly, it is a privilege to pay for the benefits that we enjoy here. And as Bert would say, I'm not just happy to do so, I'm proud to do so. But I do so with the caveat of saying, but I want to be able to hold those who spend my tax dollars accountable for the way they do it, so that it's done efficiently.
All right, thank you very much. Let's come across now to Dr. Trovall. Dean Dr. Trovall, if you would, please.
Yeah. After all this discussion now, I wish I would have looked more carefully at all the tax code stuff, so I could have had all my research here. So I honestly, I think like you, Jordan, I saw 3,000. I thought, well, that isn't very many people. And if that's their choice and that's financially beneficial to them, I don't see why they can't do that. That doesn't seem to be a kind of dissing of being an American. It's just in someone's personal interest. They feel that that's better for them and their family for whatever reason. And you know, one of the
small number.
Yeah, and it's a fundamental human right to be able to travel freely for the benefit of your family. And to me, I guess I don't see precisely why this is controversial. With Oliver Wendell Holmes, he said the mark of a civilized society is to pay taxes, and wherever society you live, it's going to be there are going to be benefits that you're going to receive, and the working of that, I guess, is in the tax code and through legislation and through people speaking up to their legislators about changing certain practices. I mean, you open the whole corporate tax up, which is now that's a whole different subject.
And much greater numbers.
Yeah. I think the only other thing that I would say is as I look at this philosophically, the word cosmopolitan means to be a citizen of the world. And that while we're committed to our local place that we, polis or community or city that we commit ourselves to, we also have an obligation to pour ourselves into helping the whole world as we work together. And that's going a different direction,
living in the age of the internet, that's become more
even
relevant
more so
these days. We used to not be as conscious of those things as we are today.
We're citizens of the world, and we owe the world something, too. We have obligations there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's come now to Canon. Canon Peterson, welcome back. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We haven't heard yet from you on this.
Well, in your moderator statement, you said over 3,000 Americans choose to renounce U.S. citizen, probably. Well, the probably puts the amount of citizens who leave because of taxation reasons in about 12th or 13th place, in contrast to other reasons why people leave. So following up with what Jordan has said, indeed, it is a very small number, and a very small number in the larger number of people who actually leave because of taxation.
And who enter, who choose to enter.
Nothing to say about entering. You know, that's a whole other issue.
But in context, it's connected.
Yeah, and of course. So I think that we have to be careful in having a program like this when the probably does not necessarily reflect at all the main reasons why people leave this country.
Oh, surely, and there are others that we reference as well. Marriage, inheritances, and so on.
Well, certainly the one that I think about most, the greatest exodus came in the 60s, at the time of Vietnam, when there's an enormous exodus to Canada because of person's conscience in relationship to serving in that war. And that number was multi times larger than a mere 3,000 people who maybe would have left this last year, probably for taxes. So I'm very concerned about that. And one of the reasons that I'm concerned about that is because I think that it is a privilege. I never personally, and other people around this table obviously, like Alan, have a very different point of view, but I never feel badly when I have to write my check to the IRS because it is an honor and privilege to be able to live in this country. One of the things I would certainly say to people who are thinking about leaving, and you're lifting your eyes, and that's fine. One of the things that I would certainly urge people who are thinking about leaving is simply to make sure that the country to which they are going, that the tax codes are acceptable to them. I mean, we lived for 10 years in England, and in that 10 years that we lived in England, the tax codes dramatically changed. And so no longer was that at all advantageous to be living in England. By the time we left England, we didn't move there for tax purposes because I was employed in England. But the tax codes change as well. So I think that there's many different facets that have to be looked at when considering this topic.
All right, thank you very much. Let's come back to Dr. Beach.
I think there's some people that leave the U.S. and go to another country and take citizenship in that country. That has happened over the centuries, but they did not give up their American citizenship. But what is happening now is that they actually turn in their passport and get rid of the American citizenship. And that is obviously based on taxation issues.
Yes, and as you've rightly said, there are many facets to this subject and many trails down which we could walk today. But someone else has something else to say on this particular matter. We're going to go to a break in just a moment. But Rabbi, did you have something further you wanted to add?
Yes, as I listen and reflect about it, I see the discontinuity between literally millions who are coming in legally and illegally wanting to be citizens of the United States, and the relatively small number of people who choose to leave.
It is becoming a more interesting discussion as the days go by, isn't it? Yes. Well, we're out of time for this segment. We're going to come back in just a few moments for your summary statements. But before we do that, Mark has an important announcement. Please stand by.
Thank you, Pastor Lutz. We hope you are enjoying today's program. If you would like to learn more about the American Religious Town Hall, please visit our website at americanreligious.org. That's americanreligious.org. There you can read about the mission and history of the program, learn about the town hall estates, and view past programs by clicking the appropriate menu buttons. Each week, Pastor Lutz looks forward to receiving your letters. You may write to him at the address shown on your screen. Send your letters to Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. That's Pastor Jerry Lutz, American Religious Town Hall Meeting, P.O. Box 180118, Dallas, Texas 75218. Thank you for writing, and thank you for watching. And now, back to you, Pastor Lutz, and today's closing statements.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome back. I do look forward to receiving your cards, letters, and your emails. And I must say, we are encouraged from time to time by those who write in to tell us that you're praying for us, and we really do appreciate that. It is a privilege to be able to come into your homes or via the internet, however you're watching us, and we do not take that for granted. And we also thank you so very much for your contributions. There are some who have supported this program for literally over 60 years, and we especially are thankful for your loyalty and your continued viewership. Please tell your friends, and perhaps if this is the first time, maybe you'll become one of those longtime viewers too. We hope so. Now let's go to our summary statements. Let's begin with Canon Peterson.
Thank you. The topic today is one, of course, that is a hot topic for many people in this country, and it centers, of course, around paying taxes. But in relationship to numbers of people leaving, I think that the person who wrote this initial article, his name is Michael Snyder, he points out in that article that he wrote, there are many other reasons that people leave, and much higher. And some of the reasons, of course, have to deal exactly with the ramification of taxes. And that is like the middle class is shrinking, escalating a social decay within our cities, etc. And it all has a catch-22 situation centering around it, 4 reasons economically why people leave.
Thank you very much. And now, Dr. Robeck, your summation.
Sure. I'm still an advocate for paying taxes. I'm quite happy to do that. Like you, John, I'm very happy to write my check each year and say, thank you, Lord, for giving me a country where I can actually do this. I also agree with you, Alan, that, that we do need greater accountability by those who spend our taxes. And if any of you are listening right now, I would encourage you to be much more accountable with the kind of ways that you choose to spend the monies that we give. You know, I don't know how many times I've repaid for all of the bridges and streets in California. I pay for them every time I go to the gasoline pump, and I'm happy to do that. But then again, you know, we've paid for some of those things 5 times over, and it's about time we find out where those taxes should be going. I also think that you were correct when you raised the issue of the tax code needing to be revamped. Completely revamped. And I think corporate taxes is only part of that. But I also would have to say that corporate profits need to be part of that whole discussion, and that those profits need to be paying their part, participating in the taxes as well.
Thank you. Let's go to Dr. Trovall. Your summation, please.
Sure. Jesus said, render to Caesar what's Caesar's and render to God what's God's. And I know it's a catchphrase and it's almost a cliche, did I just say Jesus' words were cliche? But what I think, I mean, what's profound about the comment is that it's a hard question to answer, but you have obligations that go in multiple directions, and you're obligated to fulfill them all, and it's tough.
Thank you. Now to Alan.
Well, I don't think of it as cliche so much. I think it has to do with priorities. And the question is, in my relationship to God, I serve Him. In relationship to the government serves me. And sometimes we get that mixed up, especially when it comes to taxation. It's as if we are the golden goose to which the government can continue to return again and again and again. And that's just not going to work. That's demonstrating that in this particular context, where corporations and families choose to be somewhere else. So the issue, I hope, is greater than just paying taxes. It's a matter of being thankful to God for His gift and responding to that.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. Now, Dr. Beach.
Well, I'm happy to be a patriotic American. I'm happy to live in America. I'm happy to pay the taxes that the American nation requires. And I know of no other country that I would rather pay taxes to than the United States. I'm also happy to be a citizen of the world, as has been mentioned here, and also a citizen of God's kingdom.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Beach. And now, Rabbi Ofsire, your summation, please.
Thank you. We who live in America often take it for granted, but we who live in America need to be responsible to make sure that it is the best of America that prevails and that continues, and that is essential as well. We mustn't take it for granted, but we must continue to support what is best. And we need to remember always that freedom isn't free.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm always impressed by the collective wisdom that emerges from our conversations from week to week. And today has been no exception, so I appreciate the time and the effort you put into making this program as interesting as I hope it is perceived to be by our viewers at home. And thank you, by the way, for joining us again. I will encourage you to go to our website. If you're interested in looking some of our past programs, we have quite a number of them archived there for you. And as I've encouraged you before, I'll say it again. Please tell your friends about the program. We'd love to have them become regular viewers just like you. And now the charter of the American Religious Town Hall provides that Roman Catholics, Protestants, Jews, educators, and others may appear on this program and can declare their beliefs without hesitancy. And the rest of the members of the panel will uphold and guarantee that American right to all who will appear, irrespective of race or creed, so that the rest of the world can see that here in America we believe in civil and religious freedom, not only in theory, but in reality. And now, friends, until next week, at the same time and over whatever means you've used to come to this program, the American Religious Town Hall meeting stands adjourned. And may the God of all of us bless all of you.